All right, everyone, settle down. I have an announcement for you today. Mr. Cyrus's class quieted down swiftly. Typically, when the lesson commenced, he would delve directly into the work. He rarely announced anything before the lesson, unless it was of significant importance. Mr. Kahiro himself was an Alin, standing approximately 8 feet tall. Despite his race possessing the eye positioning of a predator species, they were, surprisingly, a prey species. He had 2 towering antlers with long, slender arms and legs. Each of his hands had 3 fingers and a single thumb. He also had hooves, which wasn't uncommon among the diverse races of the Milky Way. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of the newest race to join the Galactic Council, the humans. The students nodded, some even making remarks about them, often centered on their reputation as terrifying, all-devouring Deathworlders. You see, every race in Mr. Kaho's class hailed from exceptionally peaceful planets. Abundant animals and plants thrived, and the weather was consistently mild. For a long period, it was widely believed that sentient life could not exist on any other type of planet. However, that notion was quickly dispelled with the discovery of humans, who, upon entering the Galactic Empire, were aptly nicknamed the Deathworlders. One of Mr. Shiro's students, Athalia, raised her hand. Mr. Karos, is it true what they say about humans? Do they truly come from a death world? Indeed, Mr. Kiro replied. From what we understand, humans are the only sentient race ever discovered to have originated on a death world. Now then, can someone please explain to me what a death world is? Another student raised their hand. Death worlds are planets that, until the discovery of humans, were believed to be entirely uninhabitable for sentient life. Lower classifications of death worlds possess only a select few traits that earn them such a designation, such as natural disasters, poisonous flora, drastically fluctuating temperatures, or aggressive predatory animals. Typically, death worlds only have one dominant plant, predator, or natural disaster. Such worlds are already rare, and for one to have multiple factors contributing to its ranking is even rarer. That's a concise description of death worlds, yes, Mr. Cairo said. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering why I asked you about this newly discovered race of death worlders. That's because, Mr. Koss cleared his throat with the students waiting in anticipation. We will be having humans attending this very institution. One will even be joining our class. Everyone was frozen with fear. Each student turned and looked at each other, conveying the same message without even needing to utter a single word. Aliyah, a pyrox, was the only carnivore in the class, and everyone was already apprehensive of her. In fact, all of the desks around her were unoccupied, out of fear that she might attempt to consume them. She wouldn't, of course, she possessed more self-control than that, but the thought was still present. Virtually everyone in the school, aside from the staff, was scared of carnivores of any size, but Deathworlders? That introduced an entirely new level of trepidation into the mix. Furthermore, there was so much that they didn't know about them. Finally, Mr. K. Heroes broke the silence. Since this new student transfer is such a significant event for our class, and more importantly, our institution as a whole, for the next 30 minutes, you shall be given time to do as you please. You all know the drill. No leaving class without permission, nothing inappropriate, and don't be too loud. Once the 30 minutes are up, your new classmate will arrive. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. The ensuing 30 minutes were filled with nothing but pure tension. Even Mr. K. Heroes was somewhat anxious. He hadn't actually even met the human before. He knew nothing of their race, planet, way of life, or anything else for that matter. All he knew was that this human that he was going to be teaching was from a species whose very existence had just turned everything they knew about sentient life on their heads. He did, however, overhear some comments about the humans from the students in the class. Some said that they were omnivores, a type of creature that was only ever theorized to exist. Others said that their raw strength alone was enough to overpower that of any other sentient species to exist. While in most cases Mr. K. Heroes would dismiss such rumors, this was a special case. After all, they were all in the same boat when it came to knowledge of these creatures. While Mr. Koss was thinking to himself, Aliyah approached him. Sir? Aliyah asked. Oh, Aliyah, you want to ask me something? Yes, sir, it's about the Death Worlder. Do you know anything about them? You know, how they act, what they eat, or their culture? Mr. Kiros let out a sigh. If I'm being honest, Aliyah, no. I'm just as much in the dark as you and everyone else is on these humans. Although I might refrain from using the term Death Worlder to describe them if I were you. They may take offense. Do you think what the others say is true? You know, that they're omnivores or that they're the strongest sentient species to exist? Aliyah asked. Mr. Kiros thought for a moment before answering. Well, if you're referring to the omnivore rumor, I highly doubt it. All creatures, primal or sentient, consume either vegetation or meat. There's no evidence to suggest that a creature could evolve on a planet with enough of both resources to be omnivorous. As for the rumors about strength, Mr. Caceros paused, going into deep thought for a moment. It may very well be possible. Your race, the Pith Rocks, is carnivorous and is quite strong. It's possible that these humans could also be carnivores. After all, they are from a death world. Not long after, there was a knock at the door. Everyone seemingly in sync fell silent. The time had come, the door opened, and the headmaster walked in with a strange, never-before-seen creature. Everyone, even Mr. K. Heroes, stared at the human. It had 2 eyes on the front of its face, as well as a nose and mouth. It also had 2 hands, each bearing 4 fingers and 1 thumb. From what it looked like, it was about 6 feet tall with what appeared to be fur on the top of its head. Aliyah, being the only carnivore in the room, noticed that it had a large amount of muscle on its body. This wasn't out of the ordinary for her, as Pyros had large amounts of muscle too, however. This creature's muscle appeared to be far more solid than that of any race she had seen. On that alone, she could tell that these humans were no joke, and the way it walked, it just seemed so strange, almost like it was built for stalking. "Greetings, Mr. Kiros," the headmaster said. "This is your new human student. Her name is Diana." "I see. What an interesting name," Mr. Kahiro said. "Pleased to meet you, human. I'm your new teacher, Mr. Kaho. Why don't you introduce yourself to the class?" As Diana turned to face the class, many of the students kept watchful eyes on her. She certainly wasn't what they were expecting, but they all knew that looks could be very deceiving. Diana then cleared her throat and spoke in an oddly soothing tone, much like an Allen. This caught Mr. K. Heroes a bit off guard. "Hello, everyone. My name is Diana. I'm a human from the planet Earth in the Sol system. I'm 17 years old, and I'm, I guess, what you would consider to be female." The class began to murmur among themselves only for a few seconds before being silenced by Mr. K. Heroes. "Okay, everyone, as we all know, I'm sure you all want to ask the human, Diana, many questions. We will, if that's okay with them." Mr. K. Heroes turned to Diana, who simply nodded. Even though she had only just arrived, she seemed quite excited to share information about her people and her planet. Mr. Kiros was also excited. His entire job was to share info and teach people, but he rarely ever got to learn anything new. "Your species, are you carnivores or herbivores?" one of the students asked. "Actually, humans are omnivores. We eat both plants and meat and can survive on diets restricting to only one of those eating styles," Diana replied. The entire class was silent with awe. Even Mr. K. Heroes couldn't seem to believe what he was hearing. After not even 30 minutes ago, he had just told Aliyah that omnivores weren't even real, and yet one was standing in his classroom introducing herself in front of his entire class. Another student asked the question that everyone in the room was wondering. But how is that possible? No known species comes from a planet that supports enough plant life and wildlife for them to be omnivorous? Diana tilted her head and gave a confused look. "Really? You're telling me that you guys don't have mass quantities of animals or plants on your planet? Well, humans have been hunting and farming since the early days of our race. Heck, most of the wildlife that was on Earth went extinct before we even hit our first industrial age. Quite a few dangerous animals are kept either in public zoos or in wildlife preserves." "So your planet is a predator-class death world then?" one of the students said. "A predator class? What?" Diana asked. Mr. Kahiro spoke. Oh, death worlds are classed depending on what part of the environment is hostile towards sentient life. These come in four classes: natural disaster, predator, toxic foliage, or inconsistent temperatures. From what it sounds like, your planet is a predator class death world. The headmaster simply gulped in anticipation. He'd already read the soon-to-be public reports about Earth and knew that Mr. Cairo's assumption was very wrong. However, a part of him wanted to see the reaction from everyone's faces when Diana told them the truth about her homeworld. "Mr. Heroes, is it?" Diana said. "You say that my planet is a predator-class death world? Well, from what you've described me, it does fit under such a name, but—" "But what?" Mr. Kiro said in anticipation. "My homeworld Earth, it checks under all categories for what you guys consider a death world. We have predators, toxic plant life, inconsistent temperatures, and natural disasters, and each of those we have multiple of every." Everyone was completely silent. Even Mr. Kiro was in shock. "How is that possible? You're telling me that you humans survived all of that and became a spacefaring species?" Dean simply shrugged. "Yeah, why is that like not normal or something?" Mr. Kerr has recomposed himself, although not without some difficulty. "And no, I'm afraid not. Although it appears we have much to learn of your species in your homeworld. Unfortunately, it looks like we won't have enough time today." Mr. K. Heroes turned to the class. "Now, remember everyone, assignments are due in by the end of the day. After that, we'll begin our lesson on the human homeworld Earth." Diana said, finishing the sentence. Yes, Earth." "Thank you, UA Diana." Yes, thank you, Diana." Diana raised an eyebrow at the pronunciation of her name. Sure, people had pronounced her name strangely before, but never like that. It's almost as if he was struggling to say it. However, she also remembered that the person in question was an 8 feet tall alien that looked like a mix between an owl and a deer. No doubt something was going to get mixed up even with the translators they were wearing. Shortly after, the bell rang and class was dismissed. As Diana was about to leave, Mr. Karos called out, "Excuse me, human, could I talk to you? I would like to discuss some things regarding next lesson." Diana turned around and walked over to Mr. Crows. She could tell the conversation was about to take an interesting turn. After all, everyone in the class almost themselves at the brief description of Earth. Said human Diana, "I was wondering if I could have some assistance planning next lesson." "Oh, sure, what do you want to know?" Well, Mr. Kaho looked away from Diana, almost out of shame for having to ask one of his own students for help planning a lesson. "When it comes to my knowledge about Earth, I don't actually know anything. In fact, you're the first human I've ever met." "Oh," Diana said. "Nothing at all, huh?" "I'm afraid not. Nothing about how you humans live, your culture, history, or your planet in general. Well, other than the fact that it apparently checks all the boxes for the galaxy's most dangerous death world." "Well," Diana pulled up a chair and sat down on the other side of Mr. Kiro's desk. "I'm afraid we're going to have to start at the beginning." Meanwhile, back at our dorm, Ahilia sat on her bed stewing in her thoughts. Everything that the Death Worlder said, the way it moved, the way it spoke, it was like it was a combination of every other creature across the galaxy turned up to 11. She could only imagine what its strength was, however. She didn't feel afraid like the others. This could have been partly due to her predatory nature, but a part of it was most definitely curiosity. She would have plenty of time to find out, as from what she had gathered after class was that there were about 30 humans total that had been transferred to this very institution. Oh boy, were things about to get interesting. By the time Diana got out of class, it was the end of the day. Mr. CIOs had been talking to her all day, attempting to learn the baseline of human history. He had no idea how deep and complicated it really was. Diana had found out that unlike humans, every other species in the galaxy had unified back in their Dark Age days. They didn't start civil wars, have infighting government, or commit mass genocide. Turns out humans were the most violent sentient species to date. Diana herself was walking to her shared dorm with several files loaded onto her school's tablet, which she had been given to her before he left her, and Mr. Koss exchanged files of history. Deanna got the history of every other species in the galaxy, although a large chunk was history on the All-In for obvious reasons, while Mr. Kiro was given several files on human history. Anna finally arrived at her shared dorm. She was surprised at how big it was. Her dorm was given a living space with several rooms going off to the sides. A bathroom, kitchen, and sleeping areas. However, she could tell that pretty much everything in there was imported from Earth. All of them still had their labels and price tags. Just as she closed the door, she could hear a computerized voice speak out. Gravity simulators returning to human living conditions? Just then, she could feel herself get heavier, however, it felt far more natural than what she had been experiencing all day. She even tested it by jumping. Yep, that's home gravity for yay. As Diana said this, another human exited the kitchen holding a bag of chips. Well, look who it is when I heard about us being in the same dorm. Had to admit, I was a bit surprised. Hello to you too. Diana said Diana and Tyler had been in the same class before they were transferred to their current school. As luck would have it, their entire class had been transferred to the school. Turns out the Galactic Federation didn't want to go through the trouble of hand-picking out individual students and just said it, and grabbed a whole class. So, where have you been all this time? Huh? Tyler asked. Well, Deanna said my new history teacher, planning a lesson about Earth. But it turns out the guy knows all about it. And let me guess, he kept you in so he could learn more about it. Yep, Diana responded. Turns out that the rest of the galaxy has themselves on mode. I'm being serious when I say that half of these guys don't even know what an earthquake is. An earthquake, one of the most natural things on Earth, and these guys don't even know what they are. Howler simply chuckled. Yep, seems about right. Brody said that his war teacher almost fainted out of shock when he mentioned World War I. Not to mention all of the students that actually did faint. Not only that, but Caleb's sport teacher had to actually pull him out of these guys, equivalent of dodgeball because of how much force we throw things with. And don't even get me started about the argument that Jen had with the lunch lady at lunch when she found out that no one cooks their food sounds like a hell of a day. Diana said also, what's up with the gravity? I feel like 5 times lighter outside of this room. You said it yourself. Diana, these guys are on mode everyone but us shares the same gravity, which turns out to be far weaker than Earth. Not only that, but even if you were to compare one of them at their level of gravity to one of us at our level of gravity, we would still come out on top by a pretty wide margin, so we're basically the closest thing to demons compared to them. Diana said pretty much on the bright side, the guys at the school were able to hook up our dorms with internet, while I would like to know how we're able to get it working halfway across the galaxy. I'm not complaining. Deanna perked up when she heard that. Thank God, I thought I was going to die of boredom. Well, I'm going to get myself something to eat. Tell the others I'm here. Something like that we will do. Tyler said before returning to his room to finish off the packet of chips. Meanwhile, Mr. Caceros was going over the files that Diana had given her. He was trying to comprehend what he was reading about Earth. This didn't seem real to him. Giant storms of wind that would tear out entire buildings from the very ground itself. Masses of rapid shaking from below Earth's ground that would tear entire cities apart at the seams. Gigantic mountains that spewed molten magma, thought only to be found surrounding a planet's core. Those were all just under the category of natural disaster, and he hadn't even finished it yet. He was spending less time reading and more time contemplating how humans not only survived these nightmarish conditions, but thrived. Diana even mentioned that humanity had gotten to a point where they were actively killing their planet and destroying the ecosystem. The very thought of a race that could conquer such a world, let alone bring it to. Its knees bewildered Mr. Akihiro beyond anything he had heard before. Still working, Mr. Castro's, the headmaster said, walking into the room. Mr. Kiro yelped in surprise. He hadn't expected anyone to show up at this time. "You headmaster?" "I wasn't expecting you," Mr. Kaho said in a surprise. "I thought I would pop in to see how you were doing, old friend. I assume you're going over the material for your next lesson." "Yes, mister," Kiro said. "I'm just having a hard time taking all of this in these humans. Headmaster, by all accounts, they shouldn't exist. I mean, destructive spirals of wind, they call tornadoes. Giant mountains that spew deadly poison and magma into the air. I haven't even finished the natural disasters part, and there's still the other categories. These humans, homeworld, tick every factor for a death world, and yet here they are." The headmaster said, If I'm being honest, I jumped out when I heard that they eat capsaicin as a way of making their food taste more exciting. Please tell me you aren't serious about that, mister. Ku said. I'm afraid I am, old friend. The same capsaicin that destroys every other race's digestive system in the smallest of amounts is consumed by humans in amounts that would fill an entire payload of chemical warheads. That, master, you're attempting to convince me that these humans consume a material that has been outlawed in every single system due to its possible use in warfare. Mr. Kaho set his head now in his hands. If you have a bad reaction to that, I should probably tell you that they also consume caffeine on the daily. You know, the same substance that when consumed by any other species overloads their system and makes their entire body fail. Mr. Kisos looked up at the headmaster and then promptly slammed his head on his desk, groaning. The headmaster chuckled before walking out of Mr. K-Hero's office. Don't worry, old friend. Your next lesson with the human dye and AA isn't for another day or two. You'll have plenty of time to read up on the humans until then. Mr. Coase looked up before letting out an even louder groan. If the shock from these files didn't kill him, the humans just might. The next day came around and Diana was heading to the gym. Her first class of the day was peeing physical exercise while she didn't exactly look forward to it. She reminded herself that she wasn't on Earth anymore and that pretty much everyone else in the school, save for the other 29 humans, was apparently much pittance to them. Hell, the gravity here was about 5 times lighter, so the most likely outcome was that she would end up blitzing everyone when she got to class. She was greeted by gym instructor Coker, another alien. He wasn't the same teacher that taught Caleb, so he had no idea what was in store for him. So, you're the almighty Deathworlder species I've heard so much about. Let me tell you first, bucko, in my gym. You're all equals until proven otherwise. You want to prove yourself to me, then you have to earn it. Diana simply smirked at Mr. Coker. Well, I suppose I will. Then Mr. Coker smiled. He liked a challenge despite everyone who had come before him boasting about their strength. They all crumbled under his lessons. I'll admit, Deathworlder, you've got spirit. But let's see if said spirit matches your muscle. Mr. Coker turned and addressed the class, all right? Everyone, let's start this off. Plain and simple, 1 lap around the gym. Everyone groaned. None of them wanted to run it. It would take 5 minutes for them to all do it. At least Diane, on the other hand, just stood there confused. Just 1 lap. Mr. Coker turned to face her. Damn straight. Now move it. Get those bodies into action. Deathworlder, you're at the back. If you think it's so easy, then let's see if you can overtake everyone. Mr. Coker internally chuckled. There was no way she'd be able to outperform the rest of the class after all these students had been in this class the whole year. Up until this point, she had no chance. At least that's what he thought at first when everyone started running. Diana blitzed past them instantly. It was like comparing an athlete runner to a sports car. Mr. Coker's jaw dropped instantly. If it could, it would have hit the floor and gone through it within less than 20 seconds. Diana had sped around the gym like lightning. Done, Mr. Coker was in complete shock. The other students had stopped running and were just staring at her. She didn't even look tired. How did you? Diana simply responded. Dude, my planet's gravity is like 5 times heavier. Even if I was under those conditions, I'd still be faster, mister. Carr simply sat down. Everyone else finish your run. I think I need to sit down. Diana went up to Mr. Core and asked, so does my spirit match my muscle? Before Mr. Coker could even think of an answer, the doors to the gym opened. Running in was Tyler. Sorry I'm late, sir. I got lost trying to find this place. Diana simply stated, I told you we should have come here together. Tyler said better late than never, so what's going on? We were told to run a lap around the gym. Diana said, wait, 1 lap. You're kidding, right? I'm afraid not. Diana pointed to the other students who had almost reached the quarterway mark. Oh, they're on that slow, huh? Yep. Even with a planet with 5 times weaker gravity, these guys still run slower than a 5-year-old. All throughout this conversation, Mr. Coker was just listening. Did these humans really think that his elite sports class was slow? He wanted to protest. But he had just witnessed the speed of a human. Of course, they would consider such speeds trivial. Well, since we'll be waiting a while, Tyler said, grinning at Diana. Want to see who's got the better speed? Diana couldn't help but grin back. Oh, so you're challenging me, huh? Well, then game on as the two humans approached the track. Mr. Coker couldn't help but watch with anticipation. He had seen the speed of a single human. Now he was about to see two of them race each other. The next few minutes went by like lightning as the rest of the class were finishing their single lap. The humans shot around the gym like lightning attempting to outrun the other hell. The speed from them alone was enough to throw others off balance. They were just that fast. By the time the class had finished their lap, the humans had already ran around the gym almost 50 times. Diana was clearly holding back when she ran her first lap. Now rest of the class went about the same. Same whenever a new physical challenge was presented to the humans. From Mr. Coker, they finished it with ease, weightlifting, easy push-ups, trivial sit-ups play. It didn't matter what he tried to do, the humans were just too strong. In fact, often the two of them would compete against each other and in the process leave everyone lost for words. By the time class was over, Diana and Tyler found themselves more, however, it was time for everyone to head the cafeteria. Such competition made the pair hungry.